Welcome back to my channel, everybody. I am RL Melpica, the Eat Coach, Natural Health and Diet Specialist. And today I wanted to share an experiment I did with my daughter for her school about living things. So she's studying living things right now in science. And one of the experiments they had was to take 3 pieces of bread and add some different parameters to them and see which would mold first, and ultimately how they would look after a while, right? So we thought that was pretty cool, and I thought it was extremely relevant to what we talk about on here, because we're always talking about what's real food, whole foods, things of that nature, right? So we got some, I think it was Canyon Bakehouse bread is gluten-free, from Costco, right? And we took 3 pieces of bread. The first piece of bread, which we called the control, where my daughter put on some plastic latex gloves, picked up the piece of bread, put it into a plastic bag so the moisture exposure wasn't too high, the bacteria exposure wasn't too high, and even oxygen exposure wasn't too high either. Put it in a little Ziploc bag. Then she went and washed her hands with antibacterial soap and picked up the second piece of bread, and that was what we called the clean aspect of the experiment, right? Clean, right? Because, getting rid of the bacteria off the hands and, not too much exposure to the other things. And the third piece of bread, she picked up after she went outside and rubbed her hands in some dirt. Her hands weren't like muddy or anything, but she just rubbed her hands in some dirt a little bit, came and then picked up the bread and touched it a little bit and put it in the third Ziploc bag. And we marked that one as dirty. Now, here's what's crazy, right? So all 3 pieces of bread looked exactly the same when we put them in the plastic bags. And we checked back in about a week and nothing really changed. And we were like, that's pretty interesting. And honestly, we kind of forgot about it. We actually forgot about the experiment. Well, lo and behold, about a month and a half later, we look at the bread and you're just going to be baffled on what you see here. Now, when you look at the control piece, right, you'll see, look, nothing has changed. This is a month and a half. Nothing has changed with this bread. It looks exactly the same as when we put it in there a month and a half ago, right? Now, if you look at the clean piece of bread, the one that after washing her hands with antibacterial soap, exactly the same. Exactly the same as it was a month and a half ago. Like, literally looks like it could be eaten and edible right now. Nothing has changed at all, right? Now, the third piece of bread, the one this is after she rubbed her hands in some dirt and picked up the piece of bread and put it in there. And it looked exactly the same when we put it in there. And this is what it looks like now. Now, that is crazy. This is a month and a half, right? So you got to ask yourself, what are we consuming here? Like a piece of bread, it doesn't matter the situation, should start to mold in essence between like 5 and 7 days, sometimes even before that. I mean, that's just, based on its exposure to the elements and whatnot. In 5 to 7 days. We are a month and a half out, and the control piece and the clean piece have not even shown any signs of molding at all, right? At all. This is just further proof that this processed food is not living food. Once the loaf of bread was exposed to bacteria, you see what happens. The natural aspects of life take place. But the reason those other 2 pieces did not, and also the reason probably why it took 7 days, at least 7 days, I don't know, it might even been more before anything started happening to the dirty piece, was because these companies, these corporations who are mass producing these items, these processed foods, are adding mold inhibitors so they have a longer shelf life. And they might say they're natural mold inhibitors. They are adding extra chemistry to the food. It doesn't matter if they say it's natural or not natural. And most of the time it is not natural. Xanthan gum is not something natural. It's not something that should be consumed. You understand what I'm saying? And whatever else they utilize as mold inhibitors is not natural. So that's what I'm talking about when we talk about eating whole foods. Eat as much whole, raw food as you possibly can if you want to stay healthy, if you want to protect this temple inside your body and protect your internal terrain. Long story short is they are not natural foods. They are a chemical composition that has been altered and ultimately goes through many processes before it gets to the table. Now, I said a month and a half. I want you to think about this. How long do you think that bread was actually on the shelf? So it's probably even longer than that, right? So think about these things when we're putting things in our body. But I thought that'd be interesting to share with all of you to kind of show you the differences here and what's really going on. Because, wow, I was floored by it. I mean, I've heard of mold inhibitors, but to see it in that aspect, and I'm not going to throw these pieces of bread away. I'm going to see how long we can go before we see any semblance of mold on the control and the clean piece. I mean, maybe we'll take a bet. Let's put in the comments. How long do you think, it's been a month and a half. How long do you think it will take before we see mold on those two pieces of bread? Love to hear what you think. If this resonated with you, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about natural health or this type of conversation, please give me a subscribe. Help me with the algorithm out there so we can start spreading this knowledge and this information and this light with more people out there. We have to grow as a community in order for real change to be made. Peace and love, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm out of here.